And maybe just one thing, and it will lead me to go to Dr. KAZAIRE, the intellectual property aspect. I mentioned the fact that some of this knowledge is in ignorance. You know, yeah, you judge over 100 years as this knowledge. They give it to you, and you take it in the labs, and it works. So what was the idea there? You know? So you just walk off with judge's knowledge without any acknowledgement of their input. Yeah, I think that's something we need to really, especially with the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. There's a lot of knowledge embedded in the few generations before us, and that could be very, very useful. But with IP, and this brings me to the aspect of policy, intellectual property and financing, and I'll run directly to Dr. KAZAIRE. Yeah. I know you've worked this journey, and you're very successful. You're a role model into commercialization. But how do issues like intellectual property, licensing, or funding affect your collaboration with the academic? You hide some things, because academia, maybe you can't trust them in reality, you know? Thank you. Then secondly, I also want to cover this. Yeah, I need you to make some recommendations on how to make technology transfer more seamless and sustainable. Thank you. Yeah, you can go on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wish to appreciate everybody in this house and all protocol is observed. One key thing about intellectual property, we need to know that some things are patentable, while some things are not patentable. For example, you cannot patent what is natural. So that's why the pharmaceutical industry for years had worked through systems to make sure that there were no dedicated efforts towards standardization of natural medicine. Why? It's not patentable, so anybody can learn your methods and go and use it, and legally he will stand. So what they did was to focus on doing bioassay guided fractionation, so that they can identify a specific compound, then they come using a lot of science, they manipulate to get another molecule which is closer to that, then they can patent now. But in doing so, they are trying to run away from nature. So what happens? This molecule, because it fails to be a real image or a duplicate of the natural molecule, so the toxicity sometimes is high, and the patient gets to suffer. But as also it was intended, for example, the colonial setup in 1957, they put a law which was called the witchcraft law. So it was the one governing indigenous knowledge. Whoever wanted to do any studies, anything with indigenous knowledge, you were practicing witchcraft. And the law was against that. Until 2019, when COVID hit, and every scientist believed that there is another way to survive, that what we call great science. And that's when also WHO came out vividly and pushed for governments to adopt the standardization of natural medicine. And thanks to God, the government of Uganda came out and rushed into the establishment of the complementary medicine and traditional medicine bill. Which was a bill there. Nobody wanted to touch it. Immediately, they enacted it into a law. So, like for my case, I was here in 1999, up here in the chemistry department. I took interest in the standardization of drugs when I went to Katwe, and I found under the mentorship, when we are talking about mentorship is key, we discussed it previously. Dr. Chris Nambatia and Professor Guam influenced a lot about me when I was up there in the lecture theaters. In year 1, someone was talking about this, that we wait in year 4. That's when we want now to begin firefighting in the skilling of the students. So it influenced me a lot. When Dr. Grace Nambaki had returned from China, she would be sharing her experience in China. Me, a student in the lecture room, I would begin saying, that's what I want to be. And it forced me to begin interaction with the indigenous knowledge holders in Katwe. They call so-called witch doctors by then. That's what the law was calling them. But today, we can call them indigenous scientists because of the policy and what the law is guiding us to. So, I found a huge gap between the scholar and the practitioner of a specific kind of knowledge. Now, in the community, now here people are saying, the Minister of Health is saying there is a gap here. Natural medicine has no doors, it has no standards, but who is to do it? But remember, even when National Drug Authority is saying that is witchcraft, 80% by then of all the people who were using, who would go to the hospitals, they would still use any means and end up to the indigenous scientists who were called witch doctors, tied heavily by the law. But now, even when the law opens the space, few scientists were ready to risk their reputation to be branded witches. And a few of us who decided to take over, we had to begin the journey by then. Then, almost 20 years later, is when the law was setting me free. So, there is something to note, that the university, today when I look at the thing, re-imaging high education for skills-based, innovation-led economy. So the moment you talk about economy, you are actually talking about economics. When you talk about economics, you are talking about money and flow of money. So what does this mean? That we are talking about knowledge in the university that is going to direct the next phase of our economy as a state. But what does that mean? That the research that is being done at all levels in the universities must be of economic sense. That it must attract funding once a product or a research has been done. That whoever finds, a certain novel formula has been done, a certain protocol in energy conservation has been done, then if everybody is attracted to say, I want to be the first person to fund this project, I want to be part of it, because someone is seeing economic sense in it. And like the previous traditional way of what has been happening, whereby a student comes in and is only dreaming about cramming a lot of formulas, and he gets a first class and quickly runs out with a lot of knowledge and science in the head, but empty-handed. Nothing is on his hands, and nothing is transforming society. But also to agree that there are layers of knowledge. So when we are talking about competence-led trainings in the university, let us not forget that there are layers of knowledge and levels of knowledge. And in this, what do I mean? A university is a place where knowledge is generated. But for over time, we have been generating knowledge ourselves. When we talk about generation of power at the Owen Falls Dam, assuming that power is being generated and nothing is being transmitted to community, to light, to power machines, to power industry. So that's what has been happening previously. That the universities have generated knowledge for themselves in their libraries. And it is not moving to community to put any light in the community. And the greatest darkness that Africa is facing is poverty, job creation, and community empowerment. So our knowledge must now start to go to light the communities. It is, there is no need for debate on this. When we look at the state of how Africa is suffering, China, which has funded this program, is aware. In 2006, when I went there, I tried to move to various provinces of China to learn how they had made it. But you find each and every industry is linked to a university. Because it's the university that refines the purity of knowledge. So, while we are talking about technical institutions, yes, we are going to do skilling, but you might find that is possible. I could call it, like when I come to pharmaceutical side, that is called crude knowledge. But then the university continuously refines it as we move to various levels. A good example, after COVID-19, when I realized that there was a need, now, since the law was allowing us to continuously develop drugs, I realized that, yes, I had a lot of indigenous knowledge with me, I had a lot of knowledge, but at a bachelor's degree, I could not standardize a drug. So I had to go back to the university. I had to go to his department, the faculty of science, sort of medicine, and pharmaceutical sciences. I did my master's in pharmacognosy and natural medicine sciences. So that I learned better skills, but also as an industrialist, access refined knowledge of a professor when I'm his student. Also access a high-level lab, which is costing billions of money, which I cannot spend as a businessman, because my role is to make money. But the university is supposed to make research. That's why it has invested in a big lab. Instead of me going to spend again in a big lab, I will rather go to the university and access that big lab there. Now, during my stay of 2 years, I had 2 formulas standardized and got registered with the National Drug Authority. So it meant it was all knowledge, but there was another level, another layer of knowledge which I needed to acquire. So as we think about all competence focused teaching, let us remember that the universities, you are the refiners of knowledge and you give it levels. Later, in my study, I found I had done a lot in stem cells in plants. But later I realized I could transfer this knowledge into stem cells in human beings. A technology which is being used in cancer treatment. Now, I realized the master's knowledge was not enough. I had to run back to the university. I had to begin a PhD in medicine with focus of my research on stem cells. And through my time, I've been able to discover molecules which I can send to the bone marrow, and they signal to the stem cells, and they can convert into natural killer cells. That level of knowledge cannot be at a vocational school. So this we must understand, that as we say we shift, Mama, I love how you are saying that it's through metamorphosis. That as we shift, let us know that not all of us will shift. Even like we are at the takeoff in terms of development and knowledge. But at the airport, not everybody who was involved in the preparation of the flight will take off with it. No. There are those who will take off and those who will stay, depending on your level of expertise. So what is fundamental is this, that the professors get to identify the pinning points that are required to drive our economy. Then identify key students at master's level, at PhD level, at bachelor's level, and we guide them. But also the product of science and technology needs to go to the market, so we need the business wing. And we work in links. So this way, where universities, you find that here, people at technology, you are feeling hot. Then people at science are feeling hot. People in medicine are feeling hot. Should stop. That we bring students together. We identify the project, and we be able to define that scientists will play this part, technologists will play this part, we need the social scientists to play this part, and it is a project that the university is focusing on to unleash. Then we unfold that. It becomes a full industry, a full solution, a full generation of endless jobs. And as we turns around, we continuously solve problem by problem, creating business, creating money, changing lives, and I tell you, you will enjoy. So today, I can't stay in industry. It is not possible. I will die. In the next 20 years, any industrialist who does not want to partner with the university will die. That's why I'm an official partner of Mbara University of Science and Technology. Because I know if I stop, I will die. So let industrialists know we must come and shake hands, and genuine hands of working together with universities. Otherwise, we will have quack innovations. And I want to tell you this, if the scholars, universities, we don't pay attention, people will work out means of putting their own solutions. And that's when we begin seeing a lot of substandard products, which you will end up using you personally, the learned people. But also your parents and relatives will be users of these substandard products, and you will be paying heavily even your salary to treat them. Later we had a discussion about the kombucha drinks. And the Uganda National Bureau of Standards was saying we are going to stop the kombucha drinks. And I was telling them, don't play with kombucha drinks. There is big money in it in America. So I told them, failure to have a standard shouldn't be a limitation of innovations. So we work to help government, and we help people establish a standard. So now they have the alcoholic kombuchas, non-alcoholic kombuchas, and people are there. But still, the knowledge that is running these projects is still crude knowledge. So this is where now students in food science need to come out with smart biotechnological solutions to handle this. And there is a lot of money there. And I conclude by assuring you, there is a lot of money in the public. There is a lot of money there. But what attracts that money to you is the solution you are providing to attend to their problems. Put a solution to a problem, money will chase you. But begin by chasing money, you will never get it.